She raised her glass and said loudly, "You should be proud to be with me and paying for us. That's your responsibility." Everyone laughed, and I just smiled, knowing full well that this role of mine would soon come to an end. My name is Leo, I'm 29, and for the last 3 years, I've been living in a fog. That fog was named Chloe. She was bright, successful, a marketing manager at a major tech company. I'm a landscape designer, the owner of a small but successful firm. To her friends, Madison, Haley, and Ava, I was just the gardener. Their jokes were getting meaner. At first, it was hints about my dirty hands, then about how my income couldn't compare to Chloe's bonuses. She always just brushed it off.
Oh, come on, Leo, they're just joking.
Tonight was the night of her triumph, a promotion to project lead. I booked a table at Alinea, one of Chicago's finest restaurants. My treat. I wanted her to feel like a queen. It all started as usual.
Leo, you must feel out of your element here, right? These forks aren't for digging in the dirt.
Haley added her 2 cents.
I wonder if your business even makes enough to cover the appetizers.
I looked at Chloe. She was smiling, not at me, at them. In the midst of the jokes, Ava, the quietest of the friends, subtly pushed my leg under the table. When I looked at her, she gave a barely perceptible shake of her head, her eyes full of what looked like anxiety. I didn't understand the signal at the time. The end came when Madison declared loudly,
Chloe, honestly, you need someone on your level. Remember that investor, Mark? Now that's scale.
I put down my fork. Chloe, this is making me uncomfortable. She sighed with theatrical irritation.
Leo, don't be so sensitive.
I'm not being sensitive, I just don't want to be humiliated, especially on a night I planned for you. And then she said it, looking me straight in the eye, cold and clear.
Look, if you don't like my friend's jokes, you can just pay for your order and leave.
Silence, then a snicker from Madison. I stood up. Thank you for the option. I pulled out a $100 bill, more than enough for my steak and glass of wine, and placed it on the table. This is for me. Enjoy your evening. Their laughter followed me all the way to the door. I got into my car, and just as I was about to start the engine, a message came through from an unknown number. This is Ava. They planned this. Chloe bet Madison $1,000 she could make you leave tonight. I'm sorry. Be careful. The tension escalated. It wasn't just humiliation. It was a calculated game. My anger was replaced by an icy calm. 10 minutes later, my phone exploded. Are you serious? Get back here and pay the bill. You embarrassed us. I can't believe you did this. I blocked all of them. I decided to go to our apartment to pack my things. I knew she'd be out for at least another hour, but when I got there, I found something worse than an empty home. She had already listed my collection of rare plants and my professional design inventory for sale online. My prize-winning bonsai, my custom-built drafting table, my entire set of Japanese gardening tools, all listed at fire sale prices. This was no longer a breakup. This was a declaration of war. A war she had no idea I was now prepared to win. What do you think my first move should be, Reddit? That's the setup, and things are about to get intense. If you want to see how this story of revenge unfolds, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, hit that like button, and let me know in the comments what you think my first step should be. Your advice might just shape what happens next. Thank you for the flood of support and advice. It's hard to describe the feeling of seeing your passion, your life's work, listed online for a fraction of its value. It wasn't about the money, it was the sheer disrespect. The first thing I did after blocking Chloe and her cackling friends was call my older brother, Chris. He's not just my brother, he's a partner at a law firm that specializes in commercial and property disputes. I explained the situation, my voice calmer than I felt. The dinner, Ava's text about the bet, and now the online listings of my property. Chris was silent for a moment, and then he said something that cut through my anger and gave me focus.
Leo, this is great. No, it's perfect.
Perfect? I thought he was crazy.
She's documenting her own crime, screenshot everything, the listings, the prices, her seller profile. Don't contact her. Don't contact the buyers. Just gather the evidence. This isn't a messy breakup anymore, Leo. This is theft and conversion of property. She's crossed a legal line. and she's too arrogant to even see it.
He was right. My fury transformed into cold, methodical action. I spent the next 2 hours archiving every single listing. I documented the estimated value of each item, totaling over $50,000 in specialized equipment and rare plants. Chloe was trying to sell it all for less than $5,000. Then I dealt with the apartment. She might have changed the digital code, but the lease is in both our names, and I still had the master key. I coordinated with my brother to have a civil standby arranged with local police for the next day. I wasn't going to step into another one of her traps alone. The goal was simple: retrieve my personal and professional belongings without incident. Ava messaged me again, this time with more details. She felt guilty and was willing to help. She told me that the investor Mark, the one Madison mentioned, wasn't just a hypothetical upgrade for Chloe. They'd been seeing each other for months. Mark was the one who filled her head with ideas that I was holding her back. He was charming, wealthy, and, according to Ava, incredibly manipulative. He convinced Chloe that I was a dead end, a dirt digger who would never match her new, lofty corporate status. The bet wasn't just about humiliating me. It was about creating a dramatic story for her to tell Mark, to show him how ruthless and decisive she could be. She was auditioning for the role of his girlfriend. So now I have a mountain of evidence, a legal strategy, and a police escort scheduled for tomorrow. I'm going back into that apartment not as a heartbroken ex, but as a man reclaiming his property from a thief. I'm walking into the lion's den tomorrow. What do you think I'll find? And how should I handle the inevitable confrontation with Chloe? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. The visit to the apartment was exactly as tense as you'd imagine. The two police officers stood by, their presence a silent deterrent to any drama Chloe might have planned. She was there, and when she saw me, her face was a cocktail of shock and fury. She opened her mouth to speak, but my brother Chris, who came with me, cut her off.
Chloe, we are here only to retrieve Leo's personal and professional property. Anything you say can and will be noted. I advise you to remain silent.
She was speechless. We spent the next hour systematically removing my belongings, my design awards, my books, my clothes. I saw my drafting table, already disassembled, ready to be sold. The sight of it sent a fresh wave of anger through me, but I kept my composure. As we were leaving, Chloe finally found her voice, a venomous whisper.
You'll regret this, Leo. You have no idea who you're messing with.
I didn't respond. I just walked out. That threat was the last piece of the puzzle. Who was I messing with? Her or her new investor boyfriend, Mark? Chris and I decided to find out. My brother has a private investigator he trusts for complex cases. We hired him. His task was simple: find out everything there is to know about Mark and his major construction project that Ava had mentioned. We had a name and a potential motivation. Now we needed the facts. The PI's report came back 3 days later, and it was a bombshell. Mark wasn't just a standard investor. He was a predator. His business model was to identify neighborhoods on the cusp of rezoning for major development. He would then use intermediaries to buy up properties cheaply before the public announcements. But his methods were dirty. He'd pressure, intimidate, and create fake legal problems for small business owners to force them to sell. And here was the smoking gun. The area where 3 of my biggest clients had their businesses whose landscapes I had spent years designing and cultivating, was the exact target zone for Mark's next big project. He couldn't get them to sell. They loved their properties. My work had significantly increased their property values and their emotional attachment to their locations. I wasn't just Chloe's embarrassing boyfriend. My company was a direct financial obstacle to Mark's multi-million-dollar scheme. Chloe wasn't just helping him humiliate me. She was actively conspiring to destroy my business to clear the way for his project. Her access to my client lists, my project schedules, my business plans, she was feeding him inside information. The plan was likely to ruin my reputation, force me out of business, and leave my clients vulnerable and demoralized, making them easier targets for Mark. My brother's eyes lit up as he read the report.
This is it. This goes way beyond a domestic dispute. This is tortious interference, conspiracy, and potentially fraud. They didn't just want you to pay for dinner, Leo. They wanted to erase you.
We now had a plan, a real one. It wasn't just about getting my tools back anymore. It was about dismantling their entire corrupt enterprise. We have the evidence to expose them completely. I could go to the authorities, or I could confront them directly. What would you do? Drop your strategy in the comments. Your comments were a mix of caution and calls for glorious public revenge. My brother and I opted for a strategy that combined the best of both. A precise, inescapable legal maneuver disguised as a direct confrontation. Ava provided the final piece we needed. She messaged me, her conscience clearly eating away at her. She said Mark was hosting a small, exclusive, pre-investment dinner at a private suite in a downtown hotel. It was for a handful of his key financial backers, and Chloe would be there, playing the part of the supportive, high-powered girlfriend. It was their victory lap. They thought I was broken and defeated, busy licking my wounds. They had no idea I was about to bring their whole world crashing down. My brother and I arrived at the hotel. I was dressed in my sharpest suit, the one I usually save for major client presentations. Chris was carrying a leather briefcase. We didn't try to sneak in. I walked right up to the concierge. "Good evening, I'm Leo. I have a delivery for Mark in the penthouse suite." The concierge, seeing my confident demeanor, simply nodded and let us go up. When the door to the suite opened, it was Mark who answered. The look on his face was worth 1,000 dinners at Alinea. Confusion, followed by a flicker of anger. Chloe appeared behind him, her smile frozen on her face as she saw me. The few investors in the room turned to look. The air crackled with tension.
Leo, what are you doing here?
Before he could say more, I stepped inside, my brother right behind me. I just wanted to return something. You tried to destroy my business, so I thought it was only fair to show you what a real business plan looks like. I nodded to Chris. He opened his briefcase and began handing pristine-bound documents to a stunned Mark, a pale-faced Chloe, and each of the baffled investors.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Chris. I am Leo's legal counsel. What you are holding is a preliminary filing for a lawsuit citing tortious interference with business, civil conspiracy, and damages totaling $2 million. It also contains evidence of Mr. Mark's fraudulent business practices related to the North District Development Project. I would advise you to read page 12 regarding investor liability very carefully.
You could hear a pin drop. The investors immediately started flipping through the pages, their faces shifting from confusion to alarm. I looked at Chloe. Her carefully constructed world was shattering in real time. All the color had drained from her face.
Leo, you can't do this.
I already did. You made a bet for $1,000. You should have aimed higher. Your ambition was always your best quality, Chloe, and your worst. You bet on the wrong man. Mark took a step forward, his voice a low growl.
You have no idea what you've just done.
Oh, I think I do. I just saved my business. I exposed a con man, and I took out the trash. By the way, the City Planning Commission and the District Attorney's Office will be receiving their own copies of this report tomorrow morning. Enjoy your dinner. We turned and walked out, leaving a crater of chaos and panic behind us. The trap had been sprung, but the prey had been them all along. The bomb has been dropped. The war is over, and the fallout is just beginning. What do you think happens to Chloe and Mark now? Share your predictions below. It's been 6 months since that night at the hotel. The silence that followed our departure was eventually replaced by the loud grinding gears of the legal system. The aftermath was everything we had planned for, and more. The lawsuit was swift and decisive. Faced with the mountain of evidence from the PI's report and Ava's testimony, Mark's investors scattered like rats from a sinking ship. They cut all ties, and their own lawyers likely advised them to cooperate with the authorities. Mark's construction project imploded. He was investigated for fraud, and last I heard, he's facing multiple federal charges. His reputation is destroyed, his assets frozen. He tried to intimidate small business owners, but in the end, he was the one who was bulldozed. And Chloe, the consequences for her were just as severe. She was named as a co-conspirator in the lawsuit. Her company's ethics board launched an internal investigation after being notified. She was fired for gross misconduct, for using her position and company resources to aid in a criminal enterprise. The $1,000 bet she won from Madison cost her a six-figure salary in her entire career. She was also charged for the theft of my property. My brother negotiated a settlement where she paid for the full value of everything she tried to sell, plus damages. I haven't seen her since that night, but Ava told me she had to move back in with her parents, completely disgraced. As for Ava, her willingness to come forward was a game changer. She testified against both Chloe and Mark. It took courage, and I made sure my brother's firm represented her pro bono to ensure she was protected. Today, she's free from their toxic influence and is actually working as a project manager for one of my biggest clients. We're not dating or anything like that, but we are friends. Good friends, built on a foundation of truth. My business is thriving. After the story came out, several new clients sought me out, impressed by my commitment to my work and my ethics. I replaced all the equipment Chloe tried to sell, upgrading everything. My new drafting table is even better than the old one. My collection of rare plants is growing again. My work is no longer just about designing landscapes. It's a symbol of my resilience. I learned that my hands, the ones they call dirty, are capable of building things that last, while their clean hands were only capable of tearing things down. The fog has lifted. I see things clearly now. I learned that you should never let anyone devalue your passion, and that sometimes the best revenge isn't loud and angry, but quiet, precise, and served with a subpoena. They thought they could bury me, but they forgot I was a gardener. They just planted a seed. Thank you all for following this journey and for all your advice along the way. It's stories like these that remind us of our own strength. If you want to hear more tales of justice and transformation, make sure you subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell. We'll see you in the next story.